and welcome to the South Star Classroom, episode 238. So happy to be here. It's time for check in, and then we're going to get into a nice, juicy topic with a special guest. So, how are we doing today? This is, like I always say, Charles's favorite part. This is why we do this every week because he demands it. So, we're going to start with David.
Live from the pits of hell. But real quick, David, does she sound low to you?
Do I sound low?
A little bit.
Okay. All right. It wasn't just me tripping. I'm good, man. I'm happy to be here. The finals. I'm happy for the finals. I don't have a team in the race. I'm looking forward to a good series. I'm excited. I saw, I think I love Jay-Z's freestyle at the Roots picnic. So I'm glad that's kind of buzzing. It's been an interesting, good week. So I'm good.
All right. And David, how are you?
Yeah, good. I turned your mic up a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm good. It's funny you mentioned that, Charles. I've seen clips of the Roots picnic and made a commitment that I'm going to go next year. So
okay,
it's something that I've always wanted to go to, and it's like they had everybody there. Everybody's at the picnic, right? It's crazy. And so I'm like, I got to be there. I got to be there next year.
You might want to see the lineup first, but I feel you. Lineup change every year.
I'll go just to see Black Sox.
Yeah, it's an experience. Yeah.
Other than that, we've got a couple days left of school here. Mike has got his finals going on, and he's last minute kind of bottom of the ninth, a good inning for him, bringing up some of his grades. So it's looking like things are going to end up generally pretty positive. And we're also wrapping up the whole band season. So we had a banquet last weekend for all of the music programs at the high school, instrumental music, indoor, marching, outdoor, orchestra, jazz, all of them. And it was nice. We had a turnout of about 100 people, students, nice, and their parents, good food and, lots of awards and just honoring the young people, so that was a very, very positive thing that we just wrapped up. And that's it.
Nice.
I love it. Thank you for that. I'm doing quite well. The weather, I think it's finally at least spring. We've had consistent days of sunshine. We got clobbered with a bunch of rain. So I'm happy that the sun has decided to not just visit us, but stay with us for a little while. And same thing here where we've got 2 more, maybe 3 more weeks of school. At this point, I'm like, why are we still going? Just wrap.
That's great. That's late. Just finish it. Everybody else is done.
Just wrap it up. And guess what? New York is still going. When we're done, New York is still going because they're not done till close, like the end of June. Right? So it's just like, come on. We know they're going to go to school.
Get out of here.
Movies and show them Aladdin, the new version. We've had enough. So, all right. Anyhow,
all the kids are going to be on their cell phones.
On their side. What makes you say that, David? Oh my goodness. So let's get into today's topic. Today, so last week, Sid and I were driving, and this news came through. He started telling me about this law that just got passed, or this act rather, that just has been passed in Maryland. And I know none of this is new. I know we've done shows on cell phones and whether they should be banned and usage and all of that. Today, I really wanted to tap into the attention crisis. So it's this ban that has happened in Maryland, which some other states have had or are following suit. But it's also this conversation that continues to happen around whether or not the alpha generation, the Gen Zers, can pay attention. All right. They have gotten a bad rap for paying attention or not being able to pay attention in class. And it all gets blamed on electronic devices. Right. And so I really want us to kind of answer some questions around that, have a discussion around that today, like the attention crisis, right? And what's happening? Why does it exist? And how do we get it back? So before we go into that, I've got some data that I want to share with you. Okay. And so We're diving into Maryland's recently approved HB 525, the Phone Free Schools Act, and the growing national movement to restrict cell phones and electronic devices in school. So when Sid, who is also our special guest today, who we'll bring up shortly, when he was telling me about it, it's a pretty comprehensive list, because they not only talk about cell phones, but smart watches, anything you could think of, it's on the list. Okay. So like I said, the episode's not just about phones, it's about attention. And so we know across the country, more states are moving towards phone-free or restricted device policies. And this is one of the first issues that there is tons of bipartisan support on from both education and political leaders. No, we don't see that too often. So the advocates argue that these policies improve focus, reduce distraction, and support student learning. But critics point out that the research on academic outcomes, improved attendance, and mental health is still mixed, and in some cases shows little measurable change. Right. And so a couple of key data points. So this from the Pew Research Center says that 74% of US adults support banning cell phones in classrooms. 44% support banning phones for the entire school day. 41% of teens support classroom bans. 17% of teens support all-day bans. And of course, 73% of teens oppose all-day bans. And now when they looked at, okay, so fine, we're doing these bans. Is it helping? Is there any sort of measurable growth connected to this, right? So some large-scale research that was done by the National Bureau of Economic Research says there were a national study across 40,000 plus schools show that test score effects are small or close to zero overall. Attendance impacts are minimal or inconsistent, and behavioral outcomes vary widely by school context. Some districts show a 1 to 2 percentile point gains in test scores in later years after a cell phone or a phone-free act has been implemented, and some reduced absenteeism in some schools. And most of the time, if there is any positive impact, the effects are stronger in middle and high school settings. And then lastly, classroom behavior impact. In schools that have strict enforcement, visible phone use can drop from 60% to 10 to 15% during class. And schools report improved perceived classroom focus and fewer disruptions. So I'll stop there. I have some other data points that we can talk about a little bit later. But let's get into question one, which is the attention crisis. Are cell phones the problem or the symptom? And when we talk about fighting for student attention, what's actually driving the breakdown?
You want us to bring him up first?
Are we going to welcome our guest?
Bring your guest up.
Oh yes, I was going to finish reading the question.
Your mama that did that, brother. We was trying to get you up here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to finish reading the question first.
Okay, sorry.
I'm like, wait, did I miss the cue to bring him up?
I was going to say, and now let's bring up. Okay, all right. Well, go ahead and bring him up.
Bring the young man up. Okay.
Yes. Well, welcome, my firstborn son, Sydney Judah Mosley. Welcome to the South Star Classroom, Sydney.
Welcome, Mr. Mosley.
Welcome.
Hello.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I think you just had a really good win on something. Like, let the people know who you are, and then we can hop into the questions.
Yeah.
My name is Sydney Mosley. I attend Bowie High School, and I'm in the marching band.
Okay. So go ahead with your questions.
Right. Next. Great. All right. So, so the first question is the attention crisis. Are cell phones the problem or the symptom? When we talk about fighting for student attention, what's actually driving the breakdown in attention in today's classrooms? And David, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Yeah, great question. I would say in the spirit of, the binary world that we tend to live in when we talk about political or social issues, I would say neither. I would say I would say cell phones are part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
They're part of the problem. But and I mean, cell phone bans really are about operationalizing systems to hold cell phones from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, right? Or whatever system you have. I think, I have a lot to say about this because there's different ways of actually doing the technical work of cell phone bans. But really it comes down to like trust. So are you a school community that has built trust with your young people and your families? Because then doing things like cell phone bans are a little bit easier. But if there's not really any trust, it's going to become it becomes a much bigger problem. We can get into that later. But long story short, cell phone bans don't improve instruction.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't make teachers better.
I would agree. So let's
Yeah, probably not. I think especially if I'm a student, I probably wouldn't want cell phones fully banned or whatnot. I think I don't have a problem with them being banned. I like those bags. Like if you go to a comedy show and when you need it, you can get it just in case there's an emergency or whatever. But there's been a lot more school without cell phones than there have been with cell phones. I think that I don't think it's just that generation's attention span is low. I think everybody's attention span is just
I drop my kid off at school and I see the adults walking around.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's everybody. I think it's the phone. It's addictive. I think it's
I'm like, you're getting paid to like do a job. You're like monitoring traffic or whatever. I'm like, and you're not even looking around at, you're just like stuck on your phone. I'm like, no, dude, that's not good. Anyways, that's a trigger for me.
And I think it's also just around respect too. One, obviously I'd want to know where outcomes were and what happened there. But even if outcomes didn't come into play, like I think there are places like churches, schools, theaters, places like that. Like it's like, something, this thing can't be the almighty now. You know what I mean? This can't be the new golden calf. And I think that, I think while there might not be a lot of data, I don't know. I have to go look at the data. It's been inconclusive. I think there's stuff that said that hasn't shown it, but some has, been inconclusive. I do think that even without that though, like I could see, unless the phone is an integral part of that classroom or like you're utilizing it, now they got the calculators and stuff like that, or you're doing something from it, and look, one of the things that I've seen is high performing schools that do really, really well. A lot of them they ban phones in that space, and part of it is around attention and wanting you be fully engaged. So and then I think there's this belief, well, not a belief, what data does show is that these damn phones add a lot to youth depression and image issues and cyberbullying and things like that. So even just for that on its own, I think that it's I could see that being an issue. It looks like we lost our superstar.
Yeah, he said his audio is terrible. It's sounding like crackers or crumbling or something. So I'll tell him to log out and come back in. So we'll see if
okay.
But yeah, I agree with a bit of what both of you have said. And the word that's coming up for me is like, is it cell phone usage or is it like, I don't want to say unpoliced either. I don't want to say unpoliced, maybe unmanaged or unsupervised, or like, I think the fact that we have schools that are happening for a limited amount of time, right? But yet we are trying to use that limited amount of time to correct, right? This behavior that is built outside of school. It's like, so we try to make school the fixer for it, which I don't necessarily think is fair, because in addition to what you said, David, about the trust being built, and if the trust isn't there, then the policy it's not going to go anywhere. But also if the partnership isn't there between home and school, it's also not going to go anywher. Right. Parents that are like, so what? Like he texts for 19 hours at home. Like, what do you want me to do about it? So
take them away. But Jube, you and I are around the same age. Huh? But you and I are around the same age. We're the group that went from nothing in schools to beepers and then cell phones and Walkmans and Discmans, and you knew what the rule was. If a teacher saw it, or they taking it and they giving it back to you at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like and I think somewhere along the line, phones just became so ubiquitous that it was like, all right, whatever. But teachers still reserve the right to be like, hey, if you don't get off that phone, you're gonna have to leave it up here. I think that a school should still be able to enforce that rule at their discretion. But again, we got a young person here, and like I said, I would completely understand, and wouldn't have a lot of pushback on them being like, nah, I want my phone, B. But you don't always get what you want. So it is what it is. I mean, it's an interesting topic.
Yep. Thank you. So Sid, what are your thoughts here? Are cell phones the problem or the symptom? And when we talk about this fight for student attention, what do you actually think is driving this breakdown of lack of student attention? And I'll be right back. I'm gonna let my dog out.
So I believe that the biggest problem right now, it is partially the phones, but also what's happening, especially in Howard County, with the deficit of our attention, it's spiraling. And to be
you're
honest,
a little crackly on my end. You're a little crackly on my end. I don't know if he's on y'all end. If
he is.
It's
okay.
A little choppy.
Are you on Wi-Fi or are you on I would say if you're on Wi-Fi, try to be on your 5G. If you're not on 5G, I would say switch to Wi-Fi, but see if it changes things.
Can you hear us?
That's another reason for the cell phones. They don't even work all the time.
Gotcha.
It's all good. The show goes on. We got him. As soon as he comes back, we'll put the spotlight
he'll
back
come
on
back.
him.
He'll come back. I mean, let's see. I want to say that my first teaching job, my first principalship, we were on the front end of cell phone bans. Like this is going back to the early 2000s, right? 2002, 2003. Back in the day when you could have a three-way contract between the school, the student, and the family, and probably had a bunch of stuff written in there that violated California's ed code. We would have, we had an incredibly strict cell phone policy at Unity High. The kids got to keep their phones, but they had to be turned off during the day. And even if we saw, like if Charles had his phone and it was like sticking out of his pocket, even if it was off, it got taken, right? And it got taken till the first time till the end of the day, second time for 30 days, and the third time till the end of the school year. And it was pretty, nobody
wanted that.
It was like really, really strict. And sometimes you're just like, oh man, this sucks. But this kid, this is their third violation, whatever, 3 strikes mentality. I don't know if I would do it like that now, but but the rationale for it was definitely like we wanted kids to come and just like be kids and engage with one another, engage with their teachers. But we also had like a really intense gang problem. And so we would, and to deal with like cyberbullying, we knew it couldn't happen because the kids didn't have their phones. Also, if we had some kind of beef that happened at school, we knew that the kids couldn't call their DOs or DS to show up after school to cause violence in the street, which happens in Oakland. So we kind of created this like bubble, right? Or like if you have an emergency, you call the school, we'll take care of it. But that's the other thing. And like if you're going to restrict devices for many families, like they want to be able to contact to know that their child is safe. So if you're going to like do a cell phone ban, I'm not even talking about instruction. I'm talking about like basic safety. If you're going to do a cell phone ban, you sure as hell better make sure that you're providing a safe environment for that student too, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. I mean, just as devil's advocate though, right? Like again, cell phones just became ubiquitous. Let's give it 20 years, right? 25. When did public education start? Like before then, from 2000 all the way before, right? Like, I mean, there were no, you didn't have that, right? And like for the most part, people were safe or safe enough. I think so. I get that argument, but it's I feel like it's easier to counter that and be like, we sacrificed way longer without. I mean, we've survived and thrived way longer before without these cell phones, than we had with them. So I get the argument, but it's just it's so overwhelming. Like this is brand new, you know. So I don't know.
I think there are some things that's brand new, right? So I think to your point, David, and to your point earlier, like, yes, when we were younger, we grew up in a world where it was like, what is a cell phone? First, it started out as the size of a VCR. It wasn't something that you carried around. Like, we learned to live a whole life without that, the immediacy of this contact and all of that. And that, we're talking about just the phone part. And then when you add on social media, that's a whole nother monster right there. But I think what we had then is, don't let this school call my house and tell me anything about anything. So we had parents, right, that was like, don't have the school call my house about anything, about a toy that you brought to school, that you know, about you taking something from somebody, about you, or you forgot your coat or whatever. So I think there was this voiceover that we had in our heads in terms of like what was appropriate, what was not, and it aligned with what the school said, what's appropriate and what's not. I think COVID shifted a lot of things. I think, of course, social media shifted a lot of things. And I think some schools just lack of awareness, availability, safety measures, like you said, right, have caused this terrain to shift to a place where I'm gonna do what my parents say, right? Because my mom said, right, I gotta have my phone. My mom be texting me during class, right? So I think when a parent is not saying what aligns with the school, it makes it even more difficult.
Totally.
And I get that because I have been a parent that has called the main office, you know, several times and not gotten an answer. I'm damn sure gonna call my kid's cell phone because where are you at? Like, right? So it's like, I'm not saying that that's
we
good,
also in the age of the school shooter too.
We are in the age of the school shooter. So all of these things I think have shifted to, you might not always get a parent who is aligned with whatever that school policy is. Yeah. And let's also add that teachers pick and choose when they use cell phones for instructional purposes. And I'm not mad at it. But it's hard when you allow that. So a part of your lesson is them scanning a QR code or them typing their answers into some app. That's great. That's great for engagement. But then when you want to also tell them, well, you also can't have cell phones in class. Now it's contradictory. Which one is it? It's either we're going all in or we're all out. Can't be both. So,
you know, I'm not really passionate either way, right? But I like this topic because it's easy to play devil's advocate both ways, right? Like if we were all like ban, I can go with the non-ban. Now it's like don't ban, I can go with the ban. And what I would say about that is I think it's an interesting point, but the teacher also got the rule book. The teacher also has the answer key. Like we're not talking. This isn't about parity between an adult professional figure and people that's supposed to be being taught a lesson. Like I don't even like my parents. Like, fair wasn't even a term or a word in my house when I was a kid, right? Like it's not and again, it's different times, but I'll say this. I think one of the things that's interesting about this, when I was on the UCSF Benioff board, I was on there with the guy that built the monetization, like that did a lot of monetization work for Facebook. He felt so bad about what they've done with Facebook and how addictive they made it on purpose. He did a documentary on Netflix about and he told the truth. And I got to sit next to him, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Tim Cook. None of these people let their kids fuck a phone. They don't let their kids have screens. Like they,
right.
They don't,
right.
And the people that made it and the people that are like multi-billionaires from it that are like, no. I just feel like that's something that should be paid attention to. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like, when they scared of it, it's like, ooh. Like even the people that make the Colt 45, they walk around with Colt 45s. Like they walk around with the hammer. The people that made Facebook is like, hey, them kids can't touch this shit. Like, you know, so it's like mental fentanyl. And
because
so
they knew, I think they probably knew anecdotally, and now we know as a result of research that especially for the developing brain, that access to digital devices and you know, short form video content, ability to like just scroll, it like impacts your brain's ability to like think and reason and critically think. Like it's proven now. Like we know that, and I think those guys knew it like back then, right? They developed the technology,
Right.
you know. But I think this. I think it's interesting because now we're seeing. You talked about it earlier, and this is kind of what you're leading with, Jubilee. That like a state mandate, right? And so the state says it, and then the districts have to comply. Like if I'm a school leader in 2026 and I get the mandate for my 2,000 or 3,000 student comprehensive high school, like I'm worried. I'm like, how are we going to do this?
Yep.
And there's different ways of doing it. Like we have, I don't know, your son's high school, I don't know how they do it or they're going to do it, but at Micah's school, they just, the kids just can't have them out, and they can use them during passing period and at lunch, but just not in class. And I don't text him during the day unless it's an emergency. But I think it's working. Like I don't think he's using his phone. He probably is. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's the easiest way to do it, as opposed to like these like pouch systems or whatever else, people are doing nowadays.
Yeah, I like the pouch.
I'll tell you that. It's a good business to be in. I'll tell you that.
But I like them though, because if there's an emergency, the phone is still there, right? If it's an emergency or whatever, it's still going. The teacher's just like, here, take it, go over there and do whatever. And if there's an emergency, you can open it and do whatever, right? Like I like that. But man, like you said, it's if you're a bad teacher, you're still gonna be a bad teacher. If you're a good teacher, maybe you can still engage, but it is a distraction. I was the point guard. I had a basketball with me all the time. I was always working on that. And sometimes the school would be like, hey man, we gotta the ball ain't hampering nothing or whatever, but it's a distraction. It's distracting, and it's like, people trying to take it out your hand. Our football, football programs would do that, right? Like the running back has to hold the ball all day, and if you can't hit it out your hand, sometimes teachers would be like, okay, this is distracting. So I get it. I get it. I get why this is a big issue though if you're a young person. You know what I'm saying? Like you feel anxious without it. You know what I'm saying? Like you having a heart attack if your phone is gone.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Sydney's gonna be able to hop on his Wi-Fi. Okay. It's not cooperating with him, but I did want to highlight this comment here from Candace Bailey, where it says, yes, we are all suffering from attention deficit. However, to your point, Charles, great teachers know how to engage their students, even utilizing cell phones in their lessons. And we're coming back to what you said, David, because that's
Miss Candace Bailey. I worked with her a long. She was one of my cohorts. An incredible educator. Glad to see her.
Yeah. So we'll circle back to what you said, David, because that's a segue to question 2 about in enforcement. But yes, the attention deficit, I think it's always there. And when I was talking to Sid about it, I was like, every generation has their thing, whether it's the fidgeter, the click clacks, sunflower seeds, trying to sneak in your Nintendo Switch, or every generation has their thing. That's a distraction. The teacher has like 12 of them on their desk because they had to confiscate them because the kids are coming into school with them, right? So I think that's always been something that a teacher has to manage, and a teacher ends up having to compete for attention. It's always a thing. I just think that the cell phone is it's a stronger thing to have to fight against than the other things, But I do agree that, just from sitting in my son's classrooms and just looking at like the example I gave you all a few weeks ago of a teacher continuing to say, pay attention, you're on your cell phone, you're all on your cell phone. It's like, well, once you so now they're off their cell phone. Now what do you do? That's always my question, which is why I asked, is it the problem or is it a symptom? Because now that you have their attention, what are you doing with the attention that you have? Are you well planned? Are you prepared? Are you doing things that are engaging? Are you having them engage in academic discourse, turn and talk, moving, get up and walk across the room, like all the things that make a lesson memorable, right? And what I saw was a teacher continuing to redirect students to get off their phone, a task that was not rigorous. So you had a 90-minute class and maybe about 10 minutes of work. So kids were either scrolling on their phone, heads down. And where was the teacher? At the desk, on her computer, on her
Oh
cell
my goodness.
So I was just like,
that's wild. That's
what are
crazy.
you really asking for? So I think sometimes these things become the focus of, it's the cell phones, it's the electronic devices, down with them.
Right.
But like you haven't done a lesson plan since 1996. That's why your kids are not paying attention. That's why their attention is not on you, because you ain't saying nothing. So anyhow, that's my thought there. Let's go to question 2, right? So now we will talk about enforcement, because to your point, David, yes, this act has been approved. And so now within it states districts have to figure it out. They got to come up with their own internal policy, administrative procedure to govern this within the schools. And what does that mean? Now you're going to have people that are responsible for implementing whatever this policy is and enforcing it. We don't even have enough people to teach, but that's the story.
I mean, but
right?
the enforcement is like, if you in the classroom and I see it, I'm taking it. And if you don't give it to me, your ass is suspended. It really is not.
Yeah,
that.
but it's not that. I mean, that you're assuming that you have 100% buy-in from your staff, right? And then everybody's on the same page. You're gonna get incredibly, like, you're gonna get varying levels of enforcement. You're like, well, Dr. Cole lets me use my phone when I'm in his class, but Mrs. Ransom, she don't play, right? And so kids, they have to learn how to, like, I guess that's part of life.
And when your principal finds out, and your principal is like, yo, like, then you get punished. Like, I mean, it's how, like, it's gum, right? Remember, like, you weren't supposed to chew gum. Some teachers don't care, some do. But let some gum end up under this desk. I've seen kids get in trouble and have to scrape up gum out of all, like, classes and stuff, right? Like, look, you can't catch everybody. You ain't supposed to speed. Most people speed, right? Like, you catch who you catch. I mean, I think I get what you're saying, David, right? Like, I completely understand, but if the rule is the rule, then make it the rule and enforce it. And if you want to change it, then you change it, but you're not going to never get 100% of anybody, but it's supposed to be a deterrence. Like, it's supposed to be, what if I do get caught? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I don't know if I want to have detention for, it was a week. Well, it was a day. Now it's a week. Damn, it's a month. If I get caught with this, is it worth it?
I think you're talking about like I think pre-COVID, possibly, but post-COVID with the general, like, softening of education standards, right? Mm-hmm. Not just academic, but like behavioral too. Enforcing something like a cell phone ban is way more complicated in today's world than it would have been 10 years ago. I'll tell you that.
I think so.
And because we're dealing with a different generation of educators, of teachers. I'm glad I got out of, like, direct supervision and leadership when I did, because I felt the generational shift. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't deal with these people. We
got more entitled.
It's a cell phone ban. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ju. I'm sorry.
No, I was just connecting to what David was saying about different generation. I said, I think these kids are more entitled, right? Like, it's not juicy anymore to have a cell phone. It's like, this is part of my right. This is like civil rights. This is my right to have a phone. How dare you come, you little picky head teacher, and take my cell phone, right? And when you call my mom or my dad, they're going to curse you out for taking a cell phone. Did you see the clip? It went viral. Maybe it was last school year. Of a young lady whose cell phone was confiscated, and she went on the teacher's desk and snatched it back.
Yeah, I saw one where a student pepper sprayed her teacher after she took her phone,
and her ass went to jail. Like, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, and you got arrested. You can't do that. Like, I mean, again, you like, just because you want to do it, don't mean that you get to do it. So, like, in the NBA, NFL, like, they have a cell phone ban.
Yes,
and these is young people. And some dummy went in and tweeted at halftime. And guess what? You got a call from the commissioner the next day. Hey, bro. Yeah. Hey, we got a rule. Hey, but that's $250,000, B. Next time it's $500,000. Next time it's $1 million. Like, listen, man, I get that it might be hard to enforce, but, like, if that's what you believe in, then you got to do what you're supposed to do, or give up and continue to have low standards for what is supposed to be. Hey, man, then you get what you get.
I think, and this is something that I always, we most of the student demographics that I worked with were, low income, fair amount of like trauma that these young people had. And I would always advise my staff, I'm like, never take anything from a student unless they have a knife, or a gun, maybe.
Right.
But like, don't put your hands on them. Don't put your hands on them. If it's a phone, if it's something, don't do it, because you don't know what that child has going on and how they're going to react. Like, you might think it's simple. It's like, oh, you have your phone out. You're not supposed to have your phone out. The rule says no phone. I'm going to take your phone because that's what the rule says. And then boom, you're pepper sprayed, or boom, somebody like gets on the desk and takes it back. And that's unfortunate. That's a poor choice that the adult made and a poor choice that the student made, but the consequences ultimately are paid by the young person. Right. It's kind of, I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying, like, in many cases with like cell phones and other things too, it tends to be like a setup for young people. Right.
Yes.
And so I think, long story short,
feel like China don't deal with this shit. I just feel like China.
No, of course they don't.
They start from a young age.
They're also like a dictatorship, dude. So it's a little different over there.
But we used to be the superpower. We used to be the smartest and raise the smartest kids, and we don't no more. And then we be complaining about why we are falling off the global map, and it's because we don't have discipline about shit. We don't have standards about anything. Again, it's bigger than a cell phone, right? Like, I get it. I was a kid that had my beeper and I hid it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep it on and you might sneak or whatever. The same way people cheat and sneak and do stuff. Like, kids are going to be kids, and that's part of the process. But again, if you want to be back at the top, then you got to do things that put you at the top. And if we know in our country, not the world, our country specifically has an attention problem that a lot of these other upcoming superpowers are not having. Like, they've been able to discern between when we can do this here and when we can do this there. And again, that's fine if we want to lax it there. But it's also, then it has to be fine too, where we got to be okay with we got to be okay not being in the top 5 in math. We got to be okay in not being in the top 5 in intelligence anymore. We got to be okay with the top people me and my friends were just talking about this, and like the last 5 out of 6 MVPs in the NBA have been foreign-born players. And it's like, when you watch Wemby, I'm the basketball guy, I'm sorry. Wembyana is the 7'5" phenom, and he won, and you know what? He cried like a baby on the floor when he won. I'm Black American, grew up playing ball. I was taught, you can't do that. You don't they're different. Like, these people are coming over, and they're looking at us and our kids like they not disciplined, they don't want it, and I can take it, and they're not hungry. So I'm glad. But when you're a superpower, you get fat and you get lazy. I don't. The phone is a microcosm. Like I said, y'all, I really don't care. If you I think you can have privileges, and maybe you start out being able to have your phone, but you can lose your phone privileges. Like the same way, with off-campus lunch, right? Everybody ain't promised off-campus lunch. Some schools are like, you gotta be on honor roll to get off campus. So schools are gonna do what they're gonna do. I'm just saying, is this the battle that we need to be fighting when 3 out of 10 kids is reading on grade level? But
they think that this is part of the reason why, And so if a law, a stipulation, a regulation is only as good as its enforcement, then, are we in a position right now with everything else that's going on to really enforce policies like this? And let's talk about it. What does that really look like for a school to enforce a policy like that? This is coming down to the school principals who, okay, for the most part, you could say like what a principal says goes. But if this stuff is happening in the classroom and I'm the teacher and I got, Tatiana or Joseph or Johnny or whoever who already done showed me they gonna buck up if I try to confiscate their phone, I gave them warnings, they're not respecting or whatever, then what do? Do I now engage in this back and forth that's going to take away from instructional time to get your cell phones? Or am I going to just back off and teach the kids that want to learn? I also hate that quote, but teach the kids that came to learn. What am I going to do as a teacher?
Yeah. If you refuse to get your phone up, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
No, that's a tough spot. that's a tough spot to put teachers in, especially like newer teachers to have to worry about like instruction and teaching, and then um, to have to monitor for things like cell phones. It can get very complicated very quickly, and you could probably end up in a situation where you create the outcome is like a suspension because the student was whatever defiant, or they cursed at a teacher, and I'm like, is it in that case, like, is it really worth it, right? Is that the desired outcome? You start with a situation about a violation of a cell phone policy that ends up in a student missing out on instruction because of a suspension, right? I don't know. I mean, if I'm an administrator, I'm looking at, man, I don't know. I mean, I would say, like, if the student gives the phone up, great, make sure they give it to you. If there's any resistance or tension, just continue to teach and notify an administrator, let an administrator come in and deal with it. Right. But then you have to have administration that's like available and like, paying it. Yeah, that has your back. Exactly. So.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have some schools in my portfolio that are no cell phone schools, and this is not even connected to like the county. They made, right. These are some of our highest performing schools, right. I think what worked to their advantage is this is something that became inculcated into their school's culture. They run K-12, right? It's 3 separate buildings, but they run K-12. So you get them in kindergarten, and this is, kindergarten ain't really, well, these kindergartens probably do care
nowadays,
about iPads, right? But this is how we do school. And in school, we don't do cell phones. And we know that from elementary school, and then we know that to middle school, and now we know that in high school. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. I think when you don't have that culture piece, it's really hard to enforce. I don't think it's impossible, right? I think in schools so if we just took out cell phones and said we want young men to make sure they wear belts. I don't know, they're not sagging, right? That would take a lot of time and effort too. You know what I'm saying? It would take a lot of time, a lot of intention, and a lot of effort, right? But I think the real shift for compliance would come from relationship for the most part. Sometimes you make an example out of a kid or two if they don't want to comply, if they don't want to listen. But a lot of times the kid that ends up saying yes, especially when you get to these high school grades, right, is because they have a relationship with the person that's asking them to do it. So it's like, I'm just doing it off of respect. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't care about this, how I walk around all the time, but I'll do it for you. And I think when that's absent, this becomes really difficult. Like, this begins to feel like school to prison pipeline a little bit.
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing, right? Like, again, I think, listen, what is the standard of your school? And there are schools right now that I work in right now, and cell phones are just not a problem because that's just the rules. When they start, you sign a packet that says, I understand the rules. They give teenagers, I think that's really cool too. Like, they give their teenagers the in high school and middle school, they give them their planners, and they got the rules enforced in there. And it's like, yo, like if you have one of those schools, you're supposed to have a belt on, like a military school or a private school or whatever, and they see you not in compliance. Hey man, where's your belt? You need a belt, or I need you to get to the office and fix it, or whatever, right? Like, I mean, and you might have said these stats, but this is NCS. That's the National Center of Education Statistics. Those the ones that you read?
Some of them, but I didn't go back.
This is from just last year. It said where more than half of public school leaders say cell phones hurt academic performance. 77% of public schools prohibit students from using cell phones during any class, with a higher percentage of elementary students, 86%, implementing, which makes sense, such a policy compared to high school secondary, which is 55%, so about 50%. Also, 38% of schools with cell phone policies have restrictions for cell phone use outside of class, such as during free periods between classes or during extracurriculars, right? Like, I mean, like I think that, like, if that's the standard and the rule y'all got, then that's I was working at a school in Indiana. I love working it's a super high, it's a public charter school, but it's a really high functioning school. And like kids they work to get stuff. So the kids on honor roll get like a different color sweater or something that they could wear. But their culture is such that kids want that they want that sweater. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they want to have that. So it's like, what is your standard? Again, I'm in sports mode. There are some terrible teams in basketball and soccer and football that have no culture. You do whatever. But there are some other ones, like you hear about Miami. Like if you play for the Miami Heat, they weigh you every day. every practice you get weighed for body fat. I think it's once a week. And if you miss it, you getting fined. If you don't like it, you just don't play with us, right? And I think so there will be schools that will be laxed. But I think while there might not be proof that there is a direct correlation between, proficiency and cell phone use and all that stuff, what I do think is that you will see a set of actions and culture from high performing schools that will be missing in lower performing schools. And I wouldn't want my kid in the school where the cell phone issue is the top issue of the day. That I feel like that's telling me a lot about the school. Does that make sense? Like, it's like, damn, that's what we're dealing about.
Yeah. First of all, I love what you said, and I love this example because this main word is culture, right? Yeah. And the culture is for both inside the classroom and outside the classroom, and it comes from expectations, right? So in a school like that, of course, they're not talking about cell phones all day. They're dealing because they're like the cell phone is that's a symptom. Right? What we're going to spend most of our time talking about is how to create an environment in a school that kids want to come to. And guess what we're going to do? We're asking the students for all this. And if we're asking the students for all this, we're asking the teachers. And that's the thing. I think a lot of times in our realm, in this landscape, it's always, okay, and I know probably every stakeholder will be like, yeah, y'all ask us to do more too. But it's like, yes, we're going to ban the cell phones. Tell the kids they need to pay attention. What are we asking the adults to do differently? Because I think that if the adults did something differently, and I guarantee if you took me to visit this school, we probably would see some really strong instruction happening in those classrooms. They might have chants and school songs, and they probably have tight transitions with students literally not lingering in the hallway way past the late bell. They probably want to be there, and they make the effort to be in class and engage, right? So I think school culture is a real big part of this, and it can change, right, how much students are actually all on their cell phones and tapped out because they have something to look forward to when they're going in the classroom. They have something to look forward to even after school, And so I still think some of the old school stuff works. Like my kids, I can speak, like they're in marching band, right? Dave's kids in marching band. Like those kids don't be looking at no cell phone because they cannot even breathe because they carrying the 4 drums or the cymbals.
Exactly.
Kids in wrestling, kids in basketball, kids in whatever club, right? Student government or what have you. Like that sort of the extracurricular activities and having students engaged in things where they don't have to use their cell phone. Like it still exists. I think we just need to not lose sight of the fact that these things can still help students get experience and put the damn cell phone down and pay attention. Sorry.
Yeah, I also got to add to the conversation. I think we also got to look at the context, right? Like, David between Oakland and San Diego, you between New York and the Maryland area, but East Coast kind of like, areas or whatever. I'm in the Chicago area. Like these kids can't even have their backpacks have to be see-through. Like you understand what I'm saying? Like the context. And again, they're probably dealing with that too. But when you got to enforce some stuff, it's like, yo, we enforce. And I was trying to think of a good simile, right? Like, let's say me and David are brothers, right? And like, I get sick and the doctor tell me I can't have certain things. I love sweets. I love this. I love that. Like, I like this stuff. But if David's my brother, and he just gonna come to my house and just take that shit out take it out the fridge and throw it away, man. Cause it's like, bro, we love you, dog. Like, I understand you want this, but this is what I'm trying to do everything in my power to make sure you're going to be safe. In this thing, if we like failing our kids are not graduating, kids are not learning. And it's like, maybe this cell phone thing isn't the answer, but maybe it's part of it. Like, well, let's try that. Let's try these different things. I just think that, the simile still doesn't necessarily fully work, but sometimes you just don't get your way. Like I get that you're a kid and you want some shit, but so what? Like you get what it's like, yo, like you gonna have a job.
I agree. Plus, they go other places. If they went to go see their favorite, I don't know who's out, Party Next Door, I don't know, their favorite artist, and it's at a venue and they cell phone. You think they're gonna go out there and argue with the safety officer? I mean, or the security guard, and you're not gonna get inside, right? So I think it's also like societal norming. It's just like in certain places where you just can't have it, you know. But I think because to Dave's earlier point, the variance, right? The inconsistency in the enforcement, some people being lax, some people being strict, it sent these mixed messages. Then you add in all the other pieces of events that have happened between COVID, between school shootings, between some schools being so short staffed that they don't got nobody in the main office to answer the phone. Parents are also like, well, shoot, at least my child got a cell phone. I can get in contact with them.
Yeah, of course. And I get that. Like I said, I get it, man. I'm not, yeah. We can move on. I'm like I said, I completely understand where y'all coming from.
And listen, I would, if they sent a letter home today and said, and they might, right? Because this is in effect for 26-27 school year. And so I might get a letter that's like, cell phones are banned. We don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be like, oh, y'all better, but I will have questions. And this is what question 3 is about. So we can shift there. But I'm going to have questions about what systems will you have in place, right? To what you were saying before too, Charles, like you were trying to find a simile. I don't know, whatever reason you were saying that, it made me think about the book bags. Oh, that's what it was when you said the book bags. So we have the clear book bags too. And so if I take the boys to school for whatever reason, they got to go through the metal detectors.
Right.
And anybody who doesn't have a clear book bag, they have a spot for it. And you got to put it over there. They got to do a separate search for whatever. The only way you're going through N2 class is if you have a clear book bag and you've cleared the scan, right? So they've created systems for when the system that they put in place isn't followed or doesn't work. And so I think those would be the kinds of questions I'm asking. If you're saying that this is what you're going to implement, no cell phones in class or what have you, then my questions are going to be around what are teachers going to do? You know, how are you going to enforce this policy? In this HB, I think it's 525, they say it cannot lead to expulsion. It cannot lead to suspension. Right. So then what does that look like? So question 3, when these policies are enforced at scale, what questions should we be asking about how enforcement plays out in schools serving Black and brown communities, poor kids? I mean, we can be broader, and I'll throw it to you, David.
I'm kind of stuck on this comment here. I mean, this is kind of what this is making me think about, just like big picture. Maybe in closing thoughts, I'll come back to that. But I mean, enforcement, especially like Black and brown low income communities, I would say, there's definitely an element here that, there's a certain, I would say, like are schools able to be thoughtful and think through a lens of like cultural competence when rolling out these like kind of one size fits all policies? Because for many families, Black and brown families, the cell phone is not just a device for the young person to use to surf the internet and social media. But again, like I said earlier, it's a way to ensure that, the child is like safe, right? And a parent needs to be able to like pick that up and text or call, or vice versa. So I think it's not, you have to like understand like where families are coming from before saying that we're just going to do like an all outright ban, because you're going to run into a lot of resistance. I think number 2, or I have 3 things. And number 2 is, cell phones are, I mean, I've never used an Android. I just use Apple products, and they're not cheap, And so, if a family saves up money to buy get into a plan to buy a cell phone that costs like what, $500, $600, and it gets confiscated, or like at a school with, a pouch system gets stolen, right? You have liability there. And that's like a lot of money to like, certain families, right? It's not like, oh, we'll just get you another one. I'm like, well, maybe they saved up for like 2 years for that phone, right? And then I think number 3, it would be interesting to see that, you know, I'm glad that there's some provisions written into it around, you know, no suspensions, kind of this and that, but inevitably you're going to run into conflict, and I would be curious to see how, what the data looks like around, you know, what happens when somebody doesn't want to turn over their cell phone. That can snowball into other things, right?
Yep.
So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on that one.
I dropped it in our private chat. It was from the Rockefeller Institute of Government, and it talked about you know, some places where it's been working well, and that the effects have been actually pretty good, and they haven't had a lot of that, right? And part of it was they got parents on board, right? So if it's like, look, man, like, look, you my kid, you got this phone, I got you this phone, but be respectful. Don't be in there doing, if they ask you to do whatever, then do it. Now, and again, we've not talked about the role that parents have to play in this, right? Like, and so, and here's the thing, you know, I brought up the book bag thing too, because if you tried to implement that in a place like California, you're gonna hear the same stuff. Oh, my rights and this and all that stuff. It's like, all right, man. Like, I guess everything is hard until you do it. You know, I mean, you know, yeah, I mean, the questions that you should be asking is, like I said, I thought that was well written, like you pointed out, David. Like, look, this can't lead to this now. Now, David and I and Julie, we all know we're not gonna cite that it's the phone reason why it's you calling me a stupid bitch when I took your phone, which is gonna lead to you being suspended. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But again, though, right? Like, this school is also a part of socialization. It's also a part of, like, yo, there's a society here, and there are things that where you should have freedoms and things like that, and we should have that. And then some shit we just got rules for. Like, you just gotta have it. Again, I'm not trying to just be super rule enforced. And again, if you're a good kid in a good school and you ain't tripping, then keep your phone. But with where we are, right, with the type of crises that we in, you got to try some things. You got to try something. And I can't be in a school that's subpar in teaching and learning and math and reading and history. Yeah. And then I go into a class and I see everybody on their fucking phone. Like, it's like, and if you scared to deal with your teacher and your teacher can't handle it and you the principal, look, maybe, and I say this to y'all with respect, right? Because y'all have both led schools. When I was in high school, my teacher, my principal was a gangster. Meaning she would randomly pop into classes and the students didn't just sit up straight. The teacher was like, because they didn't want that smoke. So if you can't, if you're not able to do what you gotta, I get it. I'm just saying, man, like, if this is the biggest issue though that you're dealing with and you struggling here, we kind of cooked, right? Like, it kind of cooked, you know? Well, the babies want their phones, and I can't do nothing. Well, I don't know if I want my kids to go here.
I'm just trying to tell you, based on what I have seen over the past few years, people are picking their heart, and this is not one of the things they pick. They got 30 kids.
I got you.
And 4 of them is paying attention. They're like, well, hot dog, it's a good day. The rest of them are sitting in there tapped out on it, and it's just, you know, so that's all the things, like teacher burnout and all that. But anyhow, we're shifting into oh wait, Dave, did you get a chance to answer this one?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so we're circling back to you for
my response was so profound you forgot what I said.
Oh, let me just share this. So I found before we go to final thoughts. So this is from the I keep on effing up the number, HBO 525, right? So it cannot go to expulsion, it cannot go to suspension. So they have a tiered discipline level. So they got level 2 to address repeated behavior. That's like a second infraction. So there's no like level 1, you got a reminder or whatever. Level 2 is parent outreach, a daily progress sheet, restorative circles, securely store the student's cell phone in a teacher or administrator controlled locker, bin, or drawer for the duration of the class period. All right. Level 3 is to address persisting behavior that poses a disruption to class. This is the third infraction. Parent, guardian, and student conference with teacher and administrator, behavior contract focused on cell phone use with parent, guardian input. Student cell phone is stored in the school central office for the remainder of the school day, awaiting parent, guardian pickup. Referral to student support team IEP team if the student has accommodation or modifications. Level
give them all
4.
IEPs.
It gets better, right? Like what? Level 4. To address
Crazy.
serious behavior infractions while keeping the student in school. 4th infraction. Loss of privileges such as confiscating of cell phone during specific class periods or for the entirety of the school day. Permanent confiscation, ban of phone. Students may not be permitted to bring their phone into the school building and or may be asked to turn in their phone each morning to be held for the duration of the school day. You know what? Let me kick off final thoughts. If I let us
insane. That's insane.
And I'm throwing it to you after, and Charles, you can wrap us. If I let a school today, I would have a no cell phone policy. That's my honest truth. I would do a no cell phone policy.
Which is what did all this for you.
because I feel. But here's why. Because
you agree with me.
No, I think that okay.
It's okay to agree with me sometimes. It's fine.
I do agree with you. I just think that there's a more robust response, right? From like a 360, right? So like no cell phones, dope ass teaching. Yeah. I don't want to hear nothing. Come in here prepared to teach you. I don't want to hear nothing. If you got a 60-minute period, they should be working. It needs to be engaged. So that's how I ran my school. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, yes, it was 10 years. It was almost 9 years ago. And we didn't have these kinds of issues. But distraction has always been a thing, right? We've always had some kind of attention deficit. And if you're a poor teacher, you definitely have an attention deficit in your classroom because you're not saying anything worth listening to, right? And so yes, I'm going to highly support you as a teacher. Make sure that you have everything that you need. Make sure that you have time to plan, to think, and to really, provide strong instruction. And that in and of and how to build strong culture in your classroom, that in and of itself is a cell phone and distractor deterrent. Mm-hmm. That's what I believe. So yes, I would say that. And I'd make it so that we all got to be on the same page. Everybody has to be enforcing it. But I bet you if we start out by just saying what classrooms and culture should look like throughout the school building, we will spend way less time talking about cell phones. We probably get 90% on board, and you might have that 10% that you is a little rough. But outside of that, I think with that kind of policy in place, you're going to get most people because you're addressing the real root of the issue, which is poor instruction.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it to you, Dave.
That language that you read from the policy is it was insane. It was like very stressful for me to hear that. It's so complicated, and I'm like, who's tracking all of that? Right? You're on step 17, and so like that's totally insane. I would say if you're going to have a policy, make it very simple for people to understand. I agree. If I were running a school today, it would definitely be a cell phone free school. But I also think that school culture trumps everything else, right? Mm-hmm. If you have a school with a strong school culture, cell phone bans or usage or even dress codes they're secondary, right? Because you have a strong school culture.
Yes.
And then, like I said, when we opened the show, it's not really about cell phones. I mean, that's part of the issue, but like you brought up the example, Jubilee, of a 90-minute learning block, with an activity that takes the kids like 10 minutes to do. And you're just like, you're setting kids up for disaster. No phones or phones, right? So naturally they're going to look for a distraction. So I think, the real question is like, how are our big comprehensive like school districts addressing quality instruction, and how are they ensuring that quality instruction is happening? Our principals out monitoring, our assistant principals out, our dean of instruction's out monitoring classrooms. And I will tell you, like in our big school systems, they're not, and so it feels like for school bans to come through the state legislatures, it might make them feel good and feel like they're doing the right thing for kids. But man, implementation is going to be very tricky for people. And so just going back to, this earlier comment, I'm like that's real.
That is real.
That's real. So
not if over 70% of the school districts in the country are currently implementing and utilizing cell phone bans in some form. And it's not a full-on ban, right? But it's like a regulation of it, right? But I'm just saying that's what the data said, right?
Define implementation.
That's my question.
But I mean, but it's having a policy, but it's having a policy right now. Again, you got to enforce the policy, but there are 70% of districts have some type of policy. I mean, I would say this as I go into it, and I love Bill. I love having Bill on the show, and I want Bill to be back. I hate this comment though. The students are not the enemy. Who said that? Who said that? Like, having standards for Black and brown kids in schools that have constantly failed them is not making them the enemy. Part of this is that we so afraid to, like, what is the standard? Like, if you setting a standard, our kids are capable of being respectful and having a standard. Like, this is not like, there is blatant racism in education and public policy, but having a standard is not necessarily that. And I get I don't get what he's trying to say. I guess in my thing, again, like y'all said, it's really not about the cell phones, but the standard of educating kids and what goes into that and standing on something has got so eroded that, like, we're like, well, the kids are gonna be mad at us, so we can't do this thing that's like better for them. Like people fighting for dumb shit, like having a Coca-Cola vending machine in their school, as opposed to fighting to get new books. And it's just like, why is that what you fighting for? Like, look, for my liberal friends, you know what we should do? I bet you, I tell you what would make Bill change it. If Donald Trump came out tomorrow and said all kids should have cell phones to be able to use them in school anytime, I bet you Bill Conrad would be like, ban them right now. And for my conservative friends, I just had them say Trump said that the having phones is bad. Use a lightning rod. This is what I'm saying though, man. We are so in a moment right now of the fucking Twilight Zone where it's like, what is actually good for kids? If you telling me that we need to have this system in place because of school shoes and things like that, yeah. Usually in those bags, many kids keep those bags, by the way. They don't always go up to the front. You put it in a bag and you keep it the same way you do at a theater, right? I guess what I'm saying is, what do you want your kids to be and do? And I guess my dad's a Marine. My brother's Army and my uncle's a Marine. So maybe I just see order a little differently, especially like I was a kid that was forced to do things that were tough, that I was challenged to do, like, and it made me better for it though. It made me better when I was told no and I couldn't have something, or like, you work in a job, but this is what's gonna happen. We're gonna keep giving in to what young people want that's not healthy for them and that's not helping, and then they're gonna get into the workforce, and then it's gonna be a shock when your boss is like, yeah, you can't do that. And well, why can't I? You're gonna be arguing, and your ass they're gonna be escorting you out the building. So again, I think I love the conversation. I agree with most of the points that everybody here made. Like I said, I could have played devil's advocate both ways in it, but the bar for our kids is so low. The bar for our teachers is so low, like, and the bar for our parents is low. Like, everybody got to play a role in this if what we're trying to get to is something to ultimately help our kids. I'll end on this. A parent that I super respect, and we used to do these parent tours. We used to take parents on tours to schools around this choice movement. And we had this one parent, they would go into a school and then they would look at the classroom, we get in, and the class obviously perks up, right? Like, the teacher perks up, but that teacher would stay around after we left and come back. That parent saw kids get on their Walkman or phone or whatever in their ear, and they was like, my kid can't go here. Like, my kid not going here. Like, I can tell already that the quality here is not going to be up to snuff with what my quality is. So parents, what is your quality that you want for your kids? And a school phone ban be damned. You should, hey man, that's distracting. I don't want to hear about that fucking phone coming out unless it's an emergency. I'm telling you, I don't give a damn what a policy say. I'm telling you as your mama, as your daddy, because you here to do this thing. We got to get back to that. Because, man, I'm in these schools all across the country every day, as I know y'all are in your areas, man. It ain't sweet in there right now, man. Like, these kids ain't learning, and the tail is kind of wagging the dog in some places. But I love the topic. I wish we could have had Sid. Happy for him to come back whenever. But this was a great episode, Jude, and thanks for the topic.
Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. This is the South Star Classroom. Make sure that you join us next week, Tuesday, 3 and 6 p.m. Y'all figure out what your time zone is, because you know what? I always mess it up. Anyway, I'm Jubilee. That's David, and that's the Dr. Charles Cole III. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.